All right, folks, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into a topic that we all love to hate: job interviews.
Oh yeah, the dreaded interview. Everyone's favorite.
So this deep dive is sparked by, well, a YouTube video that claims it has the greatest answers to the 11 most common interview questions.
Greatest answers, huh? Bold claim.
It even guarantees you'll pass on the first try. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds a little too good to be true. Like, is there really a magic formula for acing every interview?
Well, I'm skeptical, but that's what we're here to find out.
Exactly. We got to sift through the hype and see if there are any real gems in there.
Mm.
So the video we're dissecting is from a channel called Career Vids, and it claims these 11 questions are basically the make or break moments in any interview. They say these questions cover like everything from your fit and qualifications to your motivation and passion.
Sounds a bit formulaic, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
is it really that simple?
Well, there are certainly common themes in interview questions, but it's definitely more nuanced than just having a set of canned responses. Different industries, company cultures, the specific role you're interviewing for, they all play a role.
Right, right. Makes sense.
So let's jump in and see if these greatest answers hold up under scrutiny, shall we?
Let's do it. The first question they tackle is the classic, please introduce yourself.
Oh, the good old icebreaker.
The video suggests a really structured approach, almost like a mini speech. Start with your name, then express how excited you are about the position, sprinkle in some skills and experience, and really hammer home your track record of achievement.
They even give a specific example: successfully launching a new product.
Oh, I see. So you're not just saying you're good at something, you're proving it with a concrete achievement.
Precisely. And then they go on to emphasize being a positive role model and focusing on professional development.
Smart. Because employers are always looking for someone who's driven, right? A team player who's invested in their own growth.
Exactly. But here's the thing that makes me wonder. Wouldn't this approach make everyone sound kind of the same?
That's what I was thinking. If everyone follows this formula, wouldn't you just blend into the background? Like, where's the personality?
Right. It's like having a perfectly rehearsed monologue, but forgetting to actually inject your personality into it. Interviewers want to get to know you, not some generic, perfect candidate.
Totally. So it's like, yeah, the video's answer might tick the boxes in terms of content, but is it really memorable?
That's the key question. While the video provides a decent framework, I'd say the takeaway is to personalize it.
Make it your own.
Use it as a springboard to highlight your unique experiences, not as a script to be recited word for word.
I like that. All right, moving on to question number 2. How did you hear about this position?
Ah, yes. Trying to gauge your level of interest and proactivity.
The video advises highlighting genuine interest in the company, talking about how you've been following their work, almost like you've been waiting for this perfect opportunity to apply.
It's like a professional love story.
Yeah. And I get the strategy. It shows initiative, that you're not just randomly applying to every job posting you see.
It tells the interviewer you've done your research, you're invested.
But what if that's not actually true? What if you, I don't know, just stumbled across the listing on a job board? Should you still try to spin it into this grand narrative?
That's where honesty comes in. Enthusiasm is great, but it has to be authentic.
Real.
Right. If you were referred by someone, mention that. It speaks to your network. Or if you saw it online, talk about what caught your eye specifically. Was it the company's mission, a particular project, something that genuinely piqued your interest?
So it's like, be enthusiastic, but keep it real.
Exactly. Find that balance.
Okay, on to the big one. Why do you want to work here? The video's response focuses on like the company's reputation, their values, commitment to employee growth, that sort of thing.
Interesting. It's very much about aligning yourself with the company's ethos. And that's a smart move. Well, more and more, job seekers are prioritizing workplaces that reflect their personal beliefs and goals. It's not just about the paycheck anymore. It's about finding a company that resonates with you.
I get that.
And the video even suggests mentioning that you spoke to other people about the company.
Oh, like doing your due diligence,
Yeah.
getting the inside scoop.
Exactly. It shows you've gone beyond surface-level research.
But wouldn't this backfire if, your values don't actually align with the company's?
Totally. You can't force a connection that isn't there. If you're all about sustainability and the company has, I don't know, a questionable environmental record, praising their commitment to green initiatives is going to ring hollow.
Yeah, it'll be obvious you're just saying what you think they want to hear.
The key is to find genuine points of connection.
Authenticity wins again.
Eh.
All right, question number 4, and this one always makes me stumble. What are your strengths? It's like, how do you talk about yourself positively without sounding arrogant?
It's a tough one. The video recommends highlighting strengths like commercial awareness, a cost-conscious approach, and being, a selfless team player.
Those are safe choices, I guess.
They are. Commercially aware, that means you understand business. Cost-conscious, you're thinking about the bottom line. Team player, everyone wants someone who can collaborate.
But again, it feels a bit predictable. How do you stand out when everyone is using the same playbook?
That's where you go beyond those generic labels and provide specific examples. Don't just say you're commercially aware. Talk about a time when you spotted a market opportunity or helped your previous company save money.
Show, don't tell.
Exactly. Instead of claiming to be a team player, share a story about a successful collaboration. Highlight your specific contributions.
So it's about turning those generic strengths into compelling stories.
Stories are what make you memorable. They help the interviewer see you as a person, not just a resume.
Okay, now for the question we all dread. What are your weaknesses? This one feels like a trap.
Oh yeah, this is where people try to disguise a strength as a weakness or overshare something that makes them seem incompetent.
Exactly.
So what does the video suggest?
Well, they recommend going with being too hard on oneself and having difficulty saying no.
Ah, yes, the classic weakness that's actually a strength approach.
But does it actually work?
It can, but you have to deliver it authentically, with self-awareness.
So not just, I work too hard.
Right. It's about acknowledging the potential downside of the weakness while also demonstrating a desire to improve.
So, for example, you could say, I tend to be hard on myself, but I'm learning to celebrate successes and focus on progress over perfection.
Exactly. You're framing it as something you're actively working on.
What about difficulty saying no? Isn't that a red flag for an employer?
It can be, but you can reframe it. Emphasize your commitment to teamwork, your willingness to go the extra mile, but also acknowledge that you're learning to set boundaries.
Okay, so you're spinning it as a positive. You're dedicated, but you're also learning to prioritize.
Exactly. It's all about framing.
All right, so we've covered 5 of the 11 greatest answers. What's your overall impression so far?
Well, the answers are well structured. I'll give them that. They hit on points that interviewers care about.
They're checking the boxes.
Right. But as we've been talking about, the danger is relying too heavily on these pre-packaged responses. It's like having all the right ingredients, but forgetting the seasoning that makes the dish delicious.
You need that flavor.
Exactly. You got to use these answers as a starting point, but then infuse them with your personality, your experiences, your unique perspective.
It's about making it your own.
Precisely. The goal isn't to blend in, it's to stand out.
I like that.
Shall we keep going? I'm curious to see how they tackle some of the trickier questions.
Oh yeah, let's dive back in.
All right, picking up where we left off. Question number 6 is about how you prioritize your work.
Always a fun one.
The video really emphasizes a structured approach. Using lists, maybe some color coding, and most importantly, making sure your tasks align with the team's and the employer's goals.
So like being super organized, having a system.
Right, and they even use the phrase completing tasks without fail. Sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, a bit intimidating, right? Like, who can honestly say they complete every single task without fail?
It does set a high bar. And while that kind of meticulousness might be great for some jobs, it makes me think, what about flexibility? Things change all the time in the workplace.
Oh yeah, you got to be able to adapt, for sure.
Exactly. Priorities shift, new challenges pop up. You can't always stick to a rigid plan.
It's like having a perfect itinerary for a road trip, but then refusing to take a detour, even when there's an amazing view just off the main road.
I like that analogy. Sometimes you gotta embrace a little spontaneity.
Totally. The ability to reprioritize on the fly is crucial.
Absolutely. And the video doesn't really touch on that aspect of work.
All right, question number 7 gets a little more personal. What do you do in your free time?
Ah, yes. Trying to get a glimpse of the person behind the resume.
The video suggests choosing activities that highlight, positive qualities, like teamwork if you play sports, continuous learning if you're a big reader.
They're framing leisure activities as opportunities to showcase professional skills.
Clever, but kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
Yes.
But here's the thing. It's important to be genuine. If your idea of a perfect weekend is like trying new recipes and binge watching your favorite show, own it.
Yeah, don't pretend to be someone you're not.
Right. The interviewer wants to get a sense of who you really are.
Plus, if someone told me they spend their weekends analyzing spreadsheets for fun, I'd probably run the other way.
A little work-life balance never hurt anyone. It shows you have interests and a life outside of work, which can actually make you a more well-rounded employee.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on to question number 8. This one's always tricky. How would you handle a conflict with a coworker?
Ooh, conflict resolution. Always a good one to test those interpersonal skills.
The video stresses a very mature and professional approach, focusing on compromise, open communication. They specifically advise against going straight to the manager,
Interesting. They're advocating for direct communication with the coworker involved.
which I get it, shows you can handle things maturely, try to work things out on your own.
Exactly. It demonstrates emotional intelligence.
But what if it's a serious issue, like harassment or discrimination? Wouldn't going to a manager be the right thing to do in those cases?
Absolutely. There are definitely situations where involving a manager is necessary and appropriate. It's about recognizing the severity of the conflict.
Right. This video is more about those everyday disagreements that can be resolved through communication.
Right. And again, every situation is unique.
Okay, on to the future. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This question always feels like a trap.
It does, doesn't it? They're trying to assess your ambition and whether you're in it for the long haul.
The video's answer is all about growth within the company, training, promotions, mentoring new hires.
Playing the long game.
But what if your 5-year plan doesn't involve staying at that company?
That's the dilemma. Do you be honest and risk seeming like you're not committed, or do you tailor your answer to what you think they want to hear?
It's a tough one.
It is. I think the key is finding that balance. You can acknowledge that your long-term goals are still evolving while expressing a genuine interest in growing with the company.
So be open to possibilities, but still convey that you're invested in their success.
Exactly. All right, question number 10. Why should we hire you? Now this is your chance to shine.
Make your case.
The video says to highlight your skills as a perfect match for the role. Emphasize your track record, your understanding of the business. They even suggest having a 90-day plan ready to go.
Wow, that's going all in.
It is. It shows initiative, that you're not just looking for a job, but you're already thinking about how you'll contribute.
Like, I'm not here to just fill a seat. I'm here to make things happen.
Exactly. But of course, you don't want to overpromise or set unrealistic expectations.
Right. Confidence is good, but you got to back it up.
Your 90-day plan should be ambitious but achievable, based on a solid understanding of the role and the company.
All right, and finally, the last question, and this one often gets overlooked. Do you have any questions for us?
This is a great opportunity to turn the tables a bit, interview the interviewer.
Show them you're engaged.
The video recommends asking things like, what do top performers in this role do? What's the best thing about working at the company? What are the next steps in the hiring process?
Those are good starting points, but I think it's important to go beyond the generic, ask something that really matters to you.
Absolutely. What are you genuinely curious about? What information do you need to make an informed decision?
Right, because ultimately this is about finding the right fit for both of you.
Exactly. All right, we've made it through all 11 questions.
Phew. That was a lot. So what's your final verdict on this greatest answers approach?
Well, it's definitely a useful framework. It highlights things that interviewers care about. But as we've discussed, there's a risk in relying too heavily on canned responses.
You lose that personal touch.
Exactly. It's like having a beautiful map, but forgetting that the real journey is about exploration and discovery, finding your own path.
Love that. So it's not just about having the right answers, it's about being the right person.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on these greatest answers, but it feels like there's this bigger picture we haven't really talked about.
I agree. I think you're right. It's not just about memorizing lines, is it?
Right. It's like what's actually going on beneath the surface of these questions? What are interviewers really trying to figure out?
Exactly. If you think about it, these 11 questions, no matter how they're worded, they're all trying to gauge a few core things about you. Your competence, obviously.
Right. Can you actually do the job?
Exactly. But also your cultural fit, how well you'd mesh with the team and the company, your motivation, why you want this job specifically, and of course, your potential, can you grow and learn and contribute in the long run? These video answers, they're designed to tick all those boxes, but I think the real magic comes from how you personally bring those qualities to life.
So it's almost like they're looking at different facets of the same diamond, trying to see if you sparkle from every angle.
I like that analogy. It's very fitting.
But I can't help but wonder, if everyone is using these same polished answers, wouldn't you kind of lose that individuality? Wouldn't you just blend in with all the other candidates who are saying the same things?
That's the challenge, isn't it? You want to be prepared and articulate, but you also have to stand out.
Right. So how do you do that? How do you find that balance?
That's a great question, and it's something I think all job seekers grapple with. How do you strike that balance between preparation and authenticity? How do you showcase your unique value in a way that's both compelling and genuine?
Yeah, I definitely struggled with that early on in my career. I was so focused on giving the perfect answers that I kind of lost sight of what actually made me a good fit for the roles I was applying for.
I think that's a really common experience. It's easy to get caught up in trying to say what you think the interviewer wants to hear, and you end up forgetting to let your personality shine through.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think interviewers can sense that, right?
Yeah.
Like they can tell when you're not being authentic.
Oh, absolutely. They're human too. They're not just looking for robots who can spit out the right answers. They want to connect with a real person, someone who brings energy and enthusiasm and their own unique perspective to the table.
So it's not about being perfect. It's
Hmm.
about being authentically you.
Exactly.
But how do you actually do that when you're also, nervous and trying to make a good impression?
It's a delicate balance, for sure. But I think one strategy that can help is using the STAR method when answering behavioral
Oh,
questions.
yeah, I've heard of that. Can you remind our listeners what that is?
Yeah, sure. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. It's a way to structure your answers to those questions that ask you to describe a specific experience.
Like, tell me about a time you failed, or tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult coworker.
Exactly. So you start by setting the scene, describing the situation, then you outline the task you were responsible for, the actions you took, and finally, the results you achieved.
So you're telling a story, but in a way that's structured and highlights your skills and accomplishments.
Exactly. It's a great way to showcase your abilities in a way that's both engaging and memorable.
I love that.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dives into the world of job interviews, what's a key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that in a world where everyone has access to the same information, the same tips and tricks, the real differentiator is you. Your unique experiences, your personality, your passion, that's what truly makes you stand out.
It's like the playing field has been leveled, but the game has changed.
Exactly. It's no longer enough to just recite the right lines. You have to bring something more to the table, something authentic and genuine.
Well said. So to our listeners out there who are navigating the job market, I encourage you to think about what makes you unique. What are your strengths, your passions? What stories can you tell that will really capture the attention of interviewers?
And remember, the job search can be tough, but every interview is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. So go out there, be yourself, and good luck.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep those interview skills sharp.